Thank you for choosing the SNL Fan Podcast. I'm your host, just some guy named Jay. And what we'll be talking about in this one is the Hitfix article on the most of the top 10 most underrated SNL cast members of all time. But before I do that, I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to rapper Mr. Boom Boom Bang for his hot single Freaky Noize. They're saying that this is the strip club anthem of 2013. It's a real raunchy track. Definitely check it out. It's by Mr. Boom Boom Bang. The name of the song is called Freaky Noize, and I'm going to put the link in the information box below. All right, now let me get into this podcast. All right, Hitfix did an article on the 10 most underrated SNL cast members of all time. At the end of this, I'm going to talk about who I think should have been on here. And also, I'm going to talk about who I think shouldn't even been on here. Because not all of these people are, in my opinion, are underrated. Some of them are, they got the respect and the praise they deserved. But some of them actually did belong on this list. They started off with Terry Sweeney at number 10. Terry Sweeney, as you know, he made history by being the first openly gay, not only the first openly gay SNL cast member, but the first openly gay person on network television, I believe. And I'm definitely going to get the DVDs of the, because there's some guys selling on iOffer and eBay and things like that. Not an official DVD, but the one season that he was on, the 1985-86 season, the season where Damon Wayans was in the cast, and when John Lovitz was actually thin. Oh yeah, and check out my John Lovitz impersonation, by the way. Definitely click on the I'll put that in the link. Put that link in the information box below as well. Check me out trying to do John Lovitz. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. That season, I'm definitely going to get that, and I'm thinking about even reviewing the entire season. I'm fascinated by these seasons that didn't do too well on SNL, like the 1980-81 season when Eddie Murphy first joined the cast, and they say that was one of the worst seasons. Not because of Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was one of the only things good in that season. I actually bought that season. Okay, I'm gonna get into that later. But oh yeah. By the way, Terry Sweeney was a writer in that season as well. But yeah, getting back to Terry Sweeney. Yeah, first openly gay cast member. And from what I've seen, little reruns here and there throughout the years of that particular season that he was in the cast. They barely show that, but I do remember seeing it though, and I actually remember liking him and thinking he was good. He did his Nancy Reagan. I thought it was funny. What else? He did some skit when Madonna hosted, where he was, I think it was like a pink listed skit where he found out that they didn't want gay actors in Hollywood or something like that. But probably half Hollywood is probably gay anyway. But it was some kind of weird skit. Madonna was hosting, and I think if memory serves me right, I think he played one of the Kennedys or something in a skit too. But yeah, I thought he was great. I can't say much about him because memory's kind of fuzzy on that season. But I'm gonna get that on DVD and actually do a review on that. But yeah, Terry Sweeney, I guess he's underrated. Nobody talks about Terry Sweeney now unless you're just a hardcore SNL fan. At number 9, they got Nora MacDonald, which I don't think he should have been on the list. Because I think that Nora MacDonald, I think a lot of people respected him. A lot of people say he's one of the best Weekend Update anchors, and I agree. Chevy Chase respects him. A lot of the critics said he did better than Kevin Nealon, and did even better than Colin Quinn, who took over Weekend Update after him. The NBC suits, I guess, didn't like him, but the fans liked him, the show liked him, and he even came back to host two seasons later. And I remember his monologue was one of the best monologues I've ever heard. We came out there and said that, the show has actually gotten worse. It's just, it's not that they said they fired me because I wasn't funny. This is the show that just gotten so bad that they need me to come back. I mean, that was classic. I liked it. But yeah, I don't consider Nora MacDonald underrated. I mean, Nora MacDonald doesn't have the best, I guess, the most popping career right now, but You know what I'm saying? I mean, Norm Macdonald. I think he's respected. I think people really recognize his talent. I know he wasn't really used too much in skits that I can remember, but even when he was in skits, he did well. You know, and in my opinion, they said that 95, 96 season, no, not the 95, 96 season, the 94, 95 season, they had Chris Elliott in it and Janine Garofalo and all them in it. Norm Macdonald, he had some of the better skits, like that skit he did with Roseanne, where Roseanne Barr was she had the split personalities or whatever, and Norm Macdonald was like, hey, go back to the one that the one that have sex. That was hilarious. I thought that was great. I don't believe Norm Macdonald should be on the list. He's liked. No, he was people didn't sleep on him. I don't think. Now Nora Dunn. I guess I think there's more people that I don't think Nora Dunn is one of those people that was slept on either. I think people respected her in the cast. I mean, if you're gonna put Nora Dunn up here, you might as well put Garrett Morris up here or something. You know, I mean, I mean, he was. I'm talking about. What was that noise? Yeah, speaking of underrated, I mean, I believe that Nora Dunn. Although I guess you could say she's underrated, but I believe she got respect. Even though Garrett Morris gets respect too. I mean, I think they're about on that same kind of level. I mean, they were liked. People recognized the talents. They may not have been the stars when they were on. That's the thing. Nora Dunn wasn't the star of the show during her tenure. It was like Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. They were kind of the stars while she was on. But people respected her. Same thing with Garrett Morris. Like Garrett Morris wasn't the star. Like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and them, they were the stars. But people respected Garrett Morris. But he was he still wasn't held the same breath as them. That's kind of how I see Nora Dunn. Not really as underrated, but just not big enough, I guess. Number 7, you got Al Franken. Al Franken, I definitely, I guess I'd put him in the under. A lot of people just don't really see him as a cast member, even though he's a featured cast member. And I consider featured cast members as cast members. I mean, you might as well say there's not a real big difference, at least not now. But yeah, Al Franken, man, he's been on there I think he's been on the show longer than anybody. I think. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was there. He was a writer in the first season, and then he was a featured player with it, like in I think the second or third season, and of course he wasn't there during the Eddie Murphy years, but he came back when Lorne Michaels came back, and he was there from like 1985 all the way to I think the 95 season after his movie Stuart Smalley came out. And yeah, Al Franken. I mean, he's been on there. He was on there for a long time. He's still not mentioned in the same breath as some of the goats of SNL. He did a lot of innovative things on the show. Very good writer. But people don't really mention him. Unless they're talking about politics or something. So yeah, I think Al Franken, yeah, he deserves to be on the list. Now, number 6, I'm going to actually make a whole separate podcast for this person. And if I have enough energy, I may do it tonight. Nasim Pedrad. Nasim Pedrad, at first I was thinking, give it some time. She might become a star. But from the looks of it, this is going to be her last season on SNL, possibly. Because... she's of course. I'm actually talking about that in the next podcast, but yeah, Nasim Pedrad, man. I feel like yes, she is underrated. She's not gonna say underrated. People know she's talented, and people respect her talent, but she's underused. I think it's a difference between underrated and underused. Like she's rated high, but she's just not used. She's just not. They don't put her in skits. A lot of things she doesn't make it on the show, I guess. But I think she's one of the most talented people in the cast right now. Although this season she hasn't really been pulling her weight, but like I said, she's underused. You know. So yeah, Nasim Pedrad, I guess, goes on this list. Number 5, Anna Gasteyer. Yes, I do agree she's underrated. Because everybody talks about Molly Shannon and Sherry O'Terry and Tina Fey. Well, I mean, I definitely like Tina Fey and Sherry O'Terry. And, they talked about Rachel Dratch and Maya Rudolph when Anna Gasteyer. But nobody seems to really even remember Anna Gasteyer. And Anna Gasteyer, one of my friends said that she was like the female version of Daryl Hammond. Like, she did, like, her impersonations were spot on. She did everybody good. Right, she was very good at doing impersonations. She had the best skits. Her skits were better than Molly Shannon's, in my opinion. Out of the three, like when she was on there with Sherry O'Terry and Molly Shannon, I always thought that Nancy Walls. Excuse me, dang, why did I say Nancy Walls? That's in the back of my mind right now. Yeah. I was going to actually talk junk about Nancy Walls, but that's on another podcast. I feel like Anna Gasteyer. I haven't been saying Nancy Walls this whole time. Dang, you know how you have those Freudian slip-ups? Where you just... Well, yeah. I've been meaning to talk some trash about Nancy Walls and Molly Shannon. But I'll get on that later. Anna Gasteyer, she was one of the... She did very good. And it's like, she didn't get this... She just came and went. And I don't even think she'll get back to host. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even think that's even going to happen. I believe of Anna Gasteyer, if she didn't do an appearance with Will Ferrell doing that skit where they sing together, the little singing teachers, whatever. And they're saying, you're supposed to be an SNL fanatic, and you don't know the name of those characters. Oh, yeah, the Colts. The Colts, yeah. Bobby and Marty Culp, yeah. If she doesn't come back to make guest appearances doing things like that, she's not even going to get a standing ovation if she just did a cameo appearance. Like nobody really, wow, like nobody even it's kind of sad because Anna Gasteyer could really, run laps around Molly Shannon, and people put Molly Shannon act like she's the second coming of Gilda Radner. And I disagree with that. If they did a top 10 of overrated cast members, I definitely would put Molly Shannon on there. No disrespect. She was good. She was alright, but I mean, come on. Anna Gasteyer and Sherry O'Terry was whooping her down. But no, everybody just wanted to see Mary Catherine Gallagher. Number 4, Phil Hartman. I don't believe he should be on this list because everybody talks about Phil Hartman like he's one of the GOATs. Phil Hartman's been dead for I don't know, since 16 years maybe or something like that. And people still talk about Phil Hartman. Phil Hartman, he has made television immortality. He is just frozen, like he's frozen in time, and people still talk about him. He's very influential. People compare, this is how good Phil Hartman is. People compare newer cast members to I think this guy could be like the Phil Hartman in the cast, or this guy might be I think this guy might be like the Glue or the Phil Hartman type guy. That's people still talk, they still bring it up. Phil Hartman, I don't think he's underrated. I just believe that in the same thing with Nora Dunn. They just weren't the stars. They never were. Chris Farley. Dana Carvey and, Adam Sandler, they were stars. Phil Hartman wasn't really the star, but he was well respected. He was well liked. People, the critics loved him. The fans loved him. People respected him. But, he just wasn't a star. That's all it is. That's all it is. I would say underrated. Tim Meadows. I kind of feel the same way. Tim Meadows, his name does not get mentioned that much, and I actually, in my opinion, I ain't say my opinion because, I actually slept on him myself. Tim Meadows, he was great. He was very good. And I didn't really notice that until he was in that Will Ferrell cast, because I think he did better with Will Ferrell and those guys, Will Ferrell and Tracy Morgan and Chris Kattan. I think and Daryl Hannah. I think he gelled he gelled better with them than he did with Chris Farley and Chris Rock and all those people. Because when he was in the cast with Chris Rock and Chris Farley and Dana Carvey and all, Tim Meadows wasn't even on the show. Like they made jokes about Tim Meadows, like him not even being on the show. Like that was like a running gag that he was just there to be there. Tim Meadows was pretty much there to be black. He wasn't there to be funny. But we saw what he could do when he came back with that Will Ferrell cast. And even then he wasn't really the star because like Will Ferrell and all those other people were kind of the stars, but Tim Meadows he was a solid cast member. People liked it, but like I said, he never was that star. Number 2, Chris Parnell. Chris Parnell, in my opinion, he's like a white version of Tim Meadows. They kind of parallels. They have so much in common than I think they know. As far as performance and what they do, and they're kind of and they have those voices. I love their voices. Like they have these dry kind of voices, but they're is recognizable and distinct. And you know what? Another thing I like about Chris Parnell and Tim Meadows too, both of them, is that they can make you laugh without doing all that extra stuff. Like they can just look at the camera, say something simple, and it's funny. They're laid back. They don't have to jump all over the place and have wacky voices and have a bunch of wigs and makeup. They don't have to do all that. All they got to do is walk in the skit, say 2 lines, it's funny, walk out, they're good. They're good. They're good actors, good comedic actors. Chris Parnell, I think, oh my God. I could have seen him like when he was on 30 Rock playing Dr. Spaceman. He could have, in my opinion, he could have did that. He could have been on 30 Rock in every episode. I would have laughed. I would have never got tired of that. Okay, but let me move along because this podcast is a little too long for me to talk about what I was going to talk about. I shouldn't be dragging on. It's going to be close to 20 minutes of me blabbing on about the underrated cast members. So let me wrap this up with the number 1 spot who they have on there and who I agree. Jan Hooks. Jan Hooks should be she was one of the greatest. Jan Hooks she was just as talented as Dana and who else was she in the cast with? Dana and John Lovitz and all those people. She definitely was better than Victoria Jackson. But Jan Hooks, nobody talks about her. Like nobody cares. I don't think anybody remembers her. And she did some of the best stuff while she was on the cast. Jan Hooks, wow. It was very amazing, man, the stuff that she did. Yeah, definitely I think she was kind of ahead of her time because I don't want to. I'm not one of those people that think that is sexism and things like that. But I think it's just one of those things because if you think about it, Tracy Ullman was popping in the 80s. Roseanne was popping. Even people laughed at the wives on these sitcoms. So it's not like people ignored funny women in the mid 80s. But I just think that Jan Hooks could have been one of those top people like a Tracy Ullman, but she never nobody cared, nobody remembered, But yeah, what do you all think? What do you think about this list? And also too, a lot of people saying that Will Forte should have been on the list. I don't think so. Will Forte is one of those guys, I think he's in the same thing as Nora Dunn and Garrett Morris, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that Garrett Morris, Nora Dunn, and Will Forte all perform alike. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is they're one of those people that people like, and they're talented, but they just are who they are. It's not that they're underrated or even underused. It's just that, they just aren't the stars. They're just not they're not the go-to guys. They're not the, they did their thing and people, thanked them for their services. People laughed, but they just weren't, they just weren't the juggernauts on the show. Now, before I wrap this up and give another shout out to our sponsors, I want to say, I want to definitely say who I thought should have been on the list. Tim Kazurinsky, that was in the Eddie Murphy years. He made me laugh just as much as Eddie Murphy did, and Joe Piscopo. And nobody talked about Tim Kazurinsky. Tim Kazurinsky's a trivia question, if that, right now. And well, so is Joe Piscopo. But I mean, he made me laugh just as much as Eddie Murphy, and nobody cared. Nobody cared about Tim Kazurinsky. I definitely think he's Gary Kroeger. That's another one. Let's see, Rich Hall. That's another one. He was on there with Billy Crystal and Martin Short. Nobody really remembers him. Who else is another unsung hero? Oh yeah. Now the other people I'm going to name, I think they just weren't liked. Like Ellen Cleghorn, which she's not really one. I guess not. She can't put her in the same breath as these other people, but I think that she never got a chance. Same thing with Julia Sweeney and Melanie Hutzel. I definitely want to talk about those three women because they seem to be people want to put them in the same breath as being like the worst, and I definitely disagree. They weren't the worst. But they never were appreciated. But but then again, they don't deserve to be in the same list on this list because they weren't as talented as these people. But I think some of them could have got a chance. But definitely Tim Kazurinsky, he should have been on here. Mary Gross should have been on here. Denny Dillon. I think Denny Dillon needed some more years on the show, man. That was unfair. I know Dick Ebersole didn't like her from what they say, but I think Denny Dillon could have stole the show. When Eddie Murphy came on there, she was one of those people that was going blow for blow with like Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo. She could hang with those guys, and it's a shame that she wasn't brought back, the following year. But yeah, I want to give another shout out to Mr. Boom Boom Bang. Check him out. Yeah, information in the information box below. Check out his link. Freaky Noize, Strip Club Anthem. And this was too long. I don't even think anybody's going to even stick around and listen to the people I said should have been on here, except for the P1 fans I have on here who actually will send me the letters and things like that. But again, I'm just some guy named Jay. Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.